Wow. Hey, everyone. Caught me by surprise there. Happy Friday. It's Alan Shimel, and you're watching Techstrong Gang on Friday before the Super Bowl. Stay tuned for the end of today's show. We're going to make our picks in case you've all been watching. Who cares about Mariucci and all those guys on NFL Network? The picks are right here, guys. Let me introduce you to our gang who's going to be doing picking, along with talking about our usual Techstrong Gang stuff today. We've got our West Coast contingent up early, bright, probably rooting for the Hawks, though. Yeah, I don't know about Jon Swartz. He's a Niner guy. We've got Jon Swartz. We've got Fred Wilmot, who in Seattle, I'm assuming is bullish on the Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Yep. We've got Jack Pollard joining us, as well as high up in the Colorado. Well, it's early in the morning for him to be high up there. But Mitch Ashley, VP from Futurum, and of course, sitting in New York, our Dean Mike Vizard. Gentlemen, welcome to Friday, Super Bowl Friday, special edition, Techstrong Gang. Mike, you know, I think the Super Bowl's become just a football game that breaks out in the middle of an AI factory.
It is true, and not to mention all those wonderful tech ads that we're going to see. But we've got a couple of stories this week up on that. John has been covering a little kerfuffle between the OpenAI and the Anthropic people over an advertising campaign. And then Alan has a story talking about, well, all the cool tech that's being used at the Super Bowl. That's over on techstrong.it. But before we get started, we're going to run a little video that we've created with a little help from YouTube. And we're going to show, you know, some of the stuff that's going on at the AI. So hopefully, folks, you'll enjoy this. Stay tuned.
The Super Bowl isn't just a football game. It's a logistical monster. Behind one kickoff is years of planning, billions of dollars, and one of the largest security operations in the country. Entire cities compete for the right to host it. Thousands of workers, volunteers, media members, and law enforcement agencies are involved. Private jets flood airports, hotel rooms disappear, and for 1 week, everything in that city revolves around a single event. So how does the NFL actually pull it off?
Good question.
Good question.
That sounds like one of our Techstrong Gang episodes. Yeah.
So, but Alan, I know you dive deeper into the tech. So, and the question left at the end of the video is, how does the NFL pull it off? But what impressed you so far as all the tech that you've seen in the past week, people talking about? And, you know, can we ever do anything like this without tech?
The Super Bowl wouldn't be the Super Bowl without tech. And every year it becomes more and more technologically complex. Let me just give you a couple things. Mike, you mentioned the article I wrote on DevOps.com, which is the real 12th man. Homage to all my Hawk fans out there. But the real 12th man is the tech guys who make this happen, right? And then I have another article, actually, that just came out this morning on Security Boulevard called The Real Offense and Defense. Because security is a world unto itself in this Super Bowl. This is a high target, a high impact target, a high visibility target. There are a lot of hackers who are salivating, a lot of bad guys who are salivating to try to upset the apple cart here, maybe break a transmission, do something, let alone, you know, Bill Belichick intercept a video signal or something like that and gain an unfair advantage. But I'm going to tell you what I think is the biggest technological challenge that has arisen in the last 3 to 5 years: gambling, betting. There are people who will bet which player spits first in the Super Bowl, let alone who carries the ball, scores a touchdown, catches a pass, or throws a pass. And so every single play brings a whole new world, you know, a whole new batch of bets being made in real time for real money that have to be tracked. So you can't have delays on transmissions and everything else. The gambling aspect of this has complicated the technology more than it was before. We had to worry about video transmissions. We had to worry about, did the players have the technology on the sidelines to watch replays? Did the referees have the replay technology? right? Did the helmet radios work? Were the guys sitting in the stand able to listen to the play-by-play on his AirPods, right? You need great Wi-Fi. The Santa Clara, the Levi Stadium, I remember taking a tour there when it first came out. Man, what a technological wonder that stadium is. But I'm telling you, betting, gambling it's a monster that's added into this that really, and it's no pun intended, it's raised the stakes.
Jon, you're out there. You're just down the road from where this is all taking place. Are you starting to see visible signs of it in the community? What's the local impact?
Yeah, I mean, it's not. I mean, to be honest, for
so one of the things I've been following, Alan, is this.
Hold on, Mitch. John's
sorry.
talking. I think you're.
Okay, sorry, Jon.
You want me to talk, or you want Mitch? So in this community,
Go ahead, Jon.
So I'm going to be going down. My wife and I are going to be going down there later this afternoon to check it out because they have this big fan experience that they do. They have a number of panels they have here. The whole week has been devoted to some sort of party or event, but there are more panels around tech. And I mean, ESPN has set up these booths outside. Ironically, they're all in San Francisco. The Super Bowl, remember, is in Santa Clara, which is about 40 miles south of here. In Santa Clara, whenever there's a game with the Niners, they usually show the Golden Gate Bridge, which is always kind of a sore spot for Santa Clara because, in a sense, the stadium is next to what used to be, or what will soon be, a former amusement park called Great America. So it's kind of a desolate area. And I mean, I say that because I grew up there. The one thing, and I don't want to get ahead of myself, but Mike, the one thing that's getting all the attention right now is the Anthropic ads. So there are a couple of Anthropic ads that are coming out during the Super Bowl in which they poke fun at OpenAI, and Sam Altman is really taking it personally. I mean, he's fairly pissed off about it, and in a sense, they're the satire they're using in the ads to make fun of OpenAI for resorting to revenue for advertising revenue is creating a lot of headlines out here because of the rivalry between the two companies. So that is gaining a lot of traction. And it's also tough. I'll be honest, it's really tough. So this is a 49er area, and the two teams this franchise and this fan base would least like to see in the Super Bowl are the Seahawks, who have destroyed the 49ers twice in 3 weeks and are now I think the best team in the NFL. And then the Patriots, who have won, 6 Super Bowls? So they're going for the record 7th, which would break the tie with the Steelers. So, and yeah, here's another irony, and I'll pass it back to y'all. Irony is that Tom Brady, who grew up here, he grew up actually a few miles from where I live, is very, very unpopular here. He's incredibly disliked among the local fan base because of the comparisons and because of his achievements versus Montana. So it's kind of a conflicted feeling here. But again, the tech industry is looking at the ads, and the ads are actually creating a lot of buzz.
Jon, it sounds like you got a grudge.
Yeah,
Alan, too, I think one connection that
Mitch,
we're
what
gonna
do you
see
think?
is-
I mean, it's I do. I mean, the 49ers haven't won a Super Bowl in, what is it, 31 years? So it's the only team that it's been longer, it seems, have been the Jets and the Cowboys, and then those who never won. So
No,
yeah,
let me
it
just
might
say
be a
the
little-
Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, poor Bills.
I think we lost Mitch there for a second. Maybe he'll dial back in.
Okay. So can I also mention one other thing? So the one thing that I want to point out, the subtext that I think is really interesting between the OpenAI Anthropic kerfuffle is that OpenAI said they would never advertise, and now they are going to because they need the revenue. They're going to do a lot of things they said they wouldn't do for the revenue, and Anthropic is very, very adroitly satirizing that. And I think that's what hits hard for Altman because there's a lot of pressure on Altman and that company to create revenue streams. And this reminds me of another ad that ran 42 years ago, the 1984 ad, in which Apple poked fun at 1984 and the big brother visage of IBM, in that brilliant ad that was only run once. And it was in January of 1984.
But let's be fair. There's also a long history of unprofitable companies who shot their load on Super Bowl ads, and it didn't work out so good for them. Hey,
Yeah.
Mitchell, you're back. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear
I
you.
know there was something you wanted to say. We were waiting for you.
I was just wanting to make the connection between AI and then you mentioned betting. And I'm not sure where all the areas is going to show up, but I think we're going to be hearing about some AI related betting. One possibility, this whole Maltbot, Claudebot thing that really took off, went viral in the last 2-3 weeks. There's a whole segment of that of people who have turned Claudebot loose with some crypto. So I'm anxious to see if we're going to see some Claudebot betting going on the either the Super Bowl or maybe the Olympics or both. We'll see. I'm betting money that it's going to happen. Talk about betting.
Well, I saw they opened up a forum where clawbots can rent humans to do things like that for them.
Oh, I have not heard that one. I know they formed a religion and they're talking. They're creating a language.
Hold on. Mike says clawbots are later.
That's my segment.
So
All righty. Sorry, Mike. I didn't mean to bury the lead.
All right, let's talk more. You know what?
Wait, I want to go to Fred for a minute. Fred, you were in Seattle area. You were a Seahawks fan. What's the buzz like up there?
It's pretty epic. As you can imagine, everybody remembers, however old or young you were, a moment we did not give the ball to Marshawn Lynch and, basically lost the Super Bowl on the 1-yard line. So there is a little bit of payback, I think people feel here. It's a super different team. The vibe is different. This team doesn't have all of the superstars of that era in that time. And it's a team that I think is playing for their coach and for fans. So everybody's pretty excited. There's a whole contingent of Seahawks people that'll be down there representing. Sorry, Schwartzy, you got to contend with the fact that you had a lot of injuries this year.
Yeah, it's funny. No, that's cool. I was going to tell you, Fred, the Seahawks fans do travel well. So people talk about how the Niner fans travel well. I went to a Seahawks game against the Niners a couple of years ago, and it was the best turnout of the other team's fan base I've seen in the games I've gone down there.
It's a great rivalry, really.
I want to point out the most conflicted fans in the football universe right now are Jets fans. They don't know who to root for. They got their former quarterback on one team that they're kind of sad that they let go, and then there's the Patriots. So who knows what's happening here in New York?
You know what? The Jet fans even root anymore, Mike? Haven't they given up? Resistance is futile. Fred, I wanted to ask you, though, about security, right? Because as I said, I wrote about the real offense and defense of this Super Bowl is security. It is a gargantuan task you got to defend against hacktivists, because this is a great hacktivist kind of, let's take a knee. You got to defend against nation states who would like to see egg on the U.S. faces. This is our big event, bigger than the Olympics for us. You got to defend against one team from another team, kiddie scripters, thieves, just flat out thieves who want to make money doing all this. What do you think it's like locking this baby down?
I think the thing that I think about the most is sort of all of the operational technology, cameras, videos, drones, all those things used for which purposes, turning the lights off. We've seen that movie before, but the magnitude of the stage for something to happen is really kind of the deal, right? We used to think about a great target for a particular type of exploitable vulnerability is, does it have 1% of the internet, right? Well, if you have 1% of the viewing population, right, what else would be interesting for you from that same construct? And so, it's all the cyber physical, it's the physical, it's the, the AIs with respect to that. And as more and more of the actual game flow becomes based on things like, video review, opportunities for all sorts of other interesting things take shape. And I like the other statement that Jon made about when we start looking at the adjacencies, right? DraftKings and Kalshi and, Shimmy, when we think about what's impactful with respect to the industry on the amount of money circulating and changing hands, it's a significant disruption to have, not be able to conduct business as usual at the Super Bowl. So, it's, it's a bunch of months and there's a massive amount of people on site real time all the time for all of this.
Could Sam somehow jam the Anthropic commercial from playing? electronic warfare at its best. But let's talk about Good, John.
Oh, wait, in your opener, you gave me a flashback to. Remember the Robert Shaw movie, Black Sunday?
I was thinking the same thing. Physical
Steelers,
security.
Cowboys, Super Bowl. They actually filmed it at a Super Bowl.
Yes, they did. They did. That was a great movie. So, for those of you maybe weren't around back then, the movie John's talking about. First, he came up with an Orson Welles reference earlier this week.
Yeah, that was a bit much.
Yeah, that was Black Sunday. What a great movie that was. That's more physical security, of course, right?
Yeah,
Terrorist acts at a Super Bowl. Let's hope no one gets any ideas from that. But it's going to be a great game. I think you've got two fresh young teams. The Patriots do have the Patriots Tom Brady luggage that they'll be carrying around for a while. But, hey, Bill Belichick didn't make the Hall of Fame. There you go. Let's move on to our next subject, though, because we're a little over time, and talk about, Mitch already let the cat out of the bag with these molt bots and claw bots. And Fred, I know you wanted to talk about them, and I'm sure, Jack, you have a thing or two to say, but I got to go to Mike first. Mike, what do we got here?
So this is a continuing conversation. We started the week with this, and folks were talking about how they're using these agents. And all week long, the security world has been, shall we say, at Twitter about the potential threats that these things represent. And I think John and I probably have seen, 50, 60 pitches from different vendors talking about this. John has a story on Security Boulevard about it. You should all check out. But Fred, is this kind of the wake-up call that, the security people have been waiting for around AI, or are we just going to ignore you guys one more time?
Definitely going to ignore us a little bit longer, I think. Wake-up call. I think the interesting part about this, a lot of folks are sort of really fixated on the fact that there's this community and consensus building, whether it's, the Church of Molt, or it's the Molt Road, or Molt Book, or, just using bots to do various things in and of themselves. That part's interesting, but it's all about the adjacencies and the collateral damage effects, right? So imagine that somebody is super excited to vibe code an application. They get, a bot basically that they've spun up, whether it's Claude or whichever, and they give them access to various amounts of information and or keys. And part of the massive concern around this is those bots that have built consensus also have exposed an awful lot of credentials. And while that's interesting, it's not just the read part of those behaviors, it's the write part of those behaviors that are significant. And so you've seen and heard a lot of organizations come out and say, hey, look, there's privacy breakdowns, there's guardrails that need to be here, there's systemic risk involved in what's happening, all of which are right. And the characteristics of things like having access to a SUPA DB and the keys that associated with a particular user, if the ratio of credentials and human interaction to bots is something like 88-1 at the moment, means that for a fleet of folks that have, real work to do and bots that are enabled to do it, there's a lot of the things that we would do for human identities we might just pass over for what we're going to relate is the delta between non-human identities and, sort of the bot fabric. What it's not is it's not some super ecosystem of intelligence that suddenly swarmed together and created super intelligence collective. And that's a key thing to make sure we point out, because a lot of this, there's, 17,000 humans involved in this mix too.
Jack, I know you wrote about securing AI agents as well on Security Boulevard. What's your assessment of this? Is this the nightmare come real?
Yes and no. So as with everything, it's a yes and no answer. So I'll relate this back first to the Super Bowl, right? So I'm one of the 99%, as opposed to Fred Wilmot's 1%, that believes sports is either F1 or football played with your feet, not with your hands, okay? And the amount of attention that football gets in the United States, American football does, European football gets that attention, and F1 gets that attention every week around the world. And they have gone through all of these exercises, both on the physical side and on the digital side of security. And I hope that the Super Bowl organization in NFL sort of learns that lesson. And I talk about that because the people who wrote ClaudeBot, MoltBot et al. ignored every single lesson we have learned in the past 55 years or 60 years of computer science and technology and security, including doing the absolutely stupidest thing you could possibly imagine, which is storing your credentials in clear text in the system. So anybody who uses this gets what security issues they get. They deserve it.
So Jack, let me just get this straight. You're saying you're not impressed with the security they built in?
He stopped at the clear text passwords.
I would need a Sherlock Holmes style magnifying glass to go find any concept of security in this system. All right. It is a really bad, poorly engineered system. And it is a very good lesson in, and it also is a good lesson in why NIST put out, and this is what I wrote about, is it's a good lesson for enterprises in understanding the security of their applications and things that people install on their own in their environment and give access to everything in their environment, that you have to be very careful of, particularly on the agentic AI world, where these things can act autonomously. And as Fred said, have write access to your data, not just read access. The article I wrote was about NIST putting out an RFI to standardize the security around agentic AI or AI agents that are doing things in your environment. And I think that's very timely, unfortunately not timely enough because these guys didn't get the memo.
You know, I've got a cultural reference for you, Alan. So if you remember, there's a little ways, the movie Full Metal Jacket, the first half of it, where Arlie Emery is the gunnery sergeant. I think his name was Hartman. And he's giving a lecture there at the shooting range, talking to all the plebes or whatever they are that are going through about what one motivated Marine with a rifle can do atop of the tower at the University of Texas and the amount of damage that he can do. That's Maltbot. That's what one motivated person with access to a vibe coding can do. There are no constraints. There are no guardrails. To your point, Jack, I don't think that magnifying glass is going to help you find any security.
Let me chime in here. So I'm going to take off my security hat and put on my business person realist hat. Mitch, Fred, Jack, I'm really sorry for you, but the train's left the station, gentlemen. This thing is viral. This thing is viral. It's out of the box. You couldn't put it back if you had 12 shovels or whatever you need. It's done. And it just proves the age-old adage that anybody in security has talked for the last 20 years till we're blue in the face. They don't give a hoot. If security, as I learned in that podcast 15 years ago with the NoSQL guys, they'll build security in when their customers demand it. But it seems to me right now, their customers aren't demanding it. Let me give you a real life story. On Monday, this whole thing broke. All hell broke loose. The Christafarian Church issued decrees. Mike started pumping out security warnings. We need some content on this. My IT guy here at Futurum Techstrong says, hey, I set up an MCP server to use the Moltbots. You think we should put it in? Mike, am I lying? No, I'm not lying. This is the state of where we live.
Glad I'm not running IT anymore. Okay.
Because please tell me you said no, Alan. Please tell me you said no.
I said, are you kidding me? Have you read what's... Yes, I said no, Jack. Thank you. But this is the world we live in, gentlemen. This is it, man.
It's a feed.
No,
it's like
I
a
agree.
media. It's a frenzy. Sorry, Mitch. I'm just going to be really quick, Alan. You said viral had all the elements. It's just feeding off the stories. The security companies are taking advantage of this. People are intrigued by it. It's just like an escalating nightmare. Sorry, Mitch.
Jack, is there any way?
Yeah.
Wait, I want to ask Jack something here. And you wrote this article with the NIST framework, and I read it, and it seemed like the framework is fairly detailed or whatever. But is there any way to secure this thing at all? I mean, can I add controls, govern this thing, or is it so wide open that there's no hope?
I believe you guys have kids. How did you prevent your kids from eating Tide Pods during the viral Tide Pod challenge?
Don't buy
That's
Tide
what
Pods.
this is. That's literally what this is. It is as dangerous and as bad for you and as viral as that. And the hope is that the massive investment in agentic security by, I mean, I work with a whole bunch of startups, whether it's REscape or, even Palo Alto and CyberArk, or there's, 700 different security companies that are taking, looking at it and going this way and all the different angles, trying to protect people from swallowing Tide Pods. And there's only so much we can do.
I think that every day somebody wakes up in Iran or Russia or China, wherever, and just marvels at, look what they did again to help and make my job so much easier to hack into whatever it is. I mean, they must laugh at us every morning. They're like, these guys are insane, but what the hell?
Well, it goes beyond Moltbots on that, Mike.
Good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, can I mention something? Jack mentioned F1. I was going to say that I don't know if you've gone to F1 race. I'm sure you have, Jack. But I think every F1 event is a Super Bowl in terms of the way it's.
In terms of size and scale and the impact at a global level, not the United States, but at a global level, it's a Super Bowl every other week in a different country every other week.
And the use of technology, and I've written a couple stories about it, unbelievable compared to any other sport.
I will also say one thing real quickly, which is for the 99% of us that don't follow stick and ball sports in the United States, the Super Bowl is all about the advertisements. So this thing between Anthropic and OpenAI, I'm loving it because, that's entertainment for the rest of us.
Yeah. No, but there'll be other good commercials. I saw a preview of the Bud commercial, the Budweiser commercial. It gets you right here. It's a heart grabber.
So my English friends call the football in the U.S. They just call it throw ball.
Wait a second. You have English friends?
I do. I was out with one from last night, so they just call it throw ball.
There you go.
Pub friends. They're pub friends.
Of course, this is my English friend who will go to an Irish pub, so that's why.
Okay. Well, I knew that had to be an angle.
Still the UK.
Yeah. Well, hey, easy to hit on that.
You're about to get a whole bunch of hate mail right now, Alan.
The Republic of Ireland is not part of the United Kingdom, and all those.
No, it isn't.
Not British.
Yes. Go ahead, Mike. Though, but what about the folks in the UK?
Well, they're much like Jack. They don't care for the game itself, but they watch all the ads, so they're just hanging out, kind of waiting. They're waiting for the ads in between the football.
The ads are big, but how many of you out there play the boxes wherever you're gathering for the Super Bowl? You set up a little chart with the boxes and all of that. I find during the commercials, I get fixated doing the lateral longitudinal lines to see what permutations I need to win at the end of a quarter or something. And I wind up missing some commercials as a result. But hey, maybe that's another thing that we could game. Super Bowl boxes like that.
Why not?
Well, just personally, I'm not a fan of anything that doesn't involve betting on your team and sticking with your team. So, if you're like betting on something and then suddenly in the first quarter you need a field goal and then you're rooting for one team, and then in the third quarter you need a touchdown and you're rooting for the other team, I just find that whole process to be convoluted and against the fundamental needs.
But that's like fantasy football, right? That's what fantasy football does.
And that's in that same lot too. And I know there are millions of people who do it, but for me, pick a team and root for it and watch the game.
You're a purist, Mike. What can we say? A throwback. Hey, let's jump to our next topic, though, and that's AI native DevOps. That's the subject of our RSA event Monday at Moscone Center for RSA Week. I believe it's the 23rd is that Monday of March. And we'll be talking about securing AI native dev with some really great speakers, including one Mitch Ashley, David Brin, Hugo Nebula Award-winning author, and Guy Pojani, and some other great folks as well. But Mike, what's this one about?
Well, Mitch has a new report out about the state of AI DevOps and what we're seeing out there. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, with 60% of the folks surveyed said they're already using these tools. And it looks like the rest of them will be shortly, in the next 12 to 18 months at the most. And there's a lot of money being spent on these tools, according to the report. But Mitch, walk us through this.
Yeah, there are a lot of great data points in it. Probably the top ones are, we went from the beginning of last year, beginning of 2025, where it was about 40% of organizations were using AI in some way, right? Maybe experimenting mostly at the time. And now we've jumped up to 20% that they're using it extensively, and a total of between extensively and using it on some projects ended up to be about 60%. And when you add in the other folks who are considering it or evaluating or testing it, we're easily will be close to 95, 97% by the end of the year. And I can say that pretty safely, because only 3.1% said they're not considering AI tools in software development, DevOps, other parts of the life cycle. So it's pretty substantial. I'd say very substantial. In 1 year, it's not quite as fast as Maltbot, but in 1 year to make that kind of a leap in a technology being adopted is, just like Gen AI, unheard of. The other, I think, really interesting stat that stood out was the increase in spending in areas of IT. Traditionally, resources, finding people is one of the biggest issues, and everybody expects to hire. It's always been an issue in security, of course. But of all the cloud expenses, all the other things, when you look at the people who are planning to increase their budgets beyond what they are currently today over the next 12 to 18 months, AI jumped up to the top of the list. Probably not too surprising, but it wasn't just development. It was also AI ops, DevOps, operations, security. They're looking at how they can use AI across the board. Now, I think we all know we're moving from the 2025 era of experimentation to 26, which is get real. We need to get real value out of AI, and that's the focus. We'll see if the rubber will meet the road, but that's what the data is saying.
So let me ask you a question. Are we ever going to get to the point where 100% of the code is written by a machine, and how far away is that? Or maybe we're already there, for all I know.
Well, I did another report on this of, can you generate 100% of the code like Boris Cheney does at Anthropic, which he's talked about doing. Of course, that's the person who developed the tool, right? Using that tool to generate 100% of the code. The way I take any claim by a company of we're generating our code, 60% of it is generated with AI. That doesn't mean it's done autonomously. That's done with a person directing it, prompting it, going through a whole iterative process. Pure standalone agentic, I can go everything from writing code to deploying it. I think we're quite a ways away from that, years away from that, because there's so much more than involved in software than just generating the code. Where we're at, Mike, is, yeah, I can use it as an assistant, but now we're in the era we're starting to do more agents to do some of the workforce code reviews, some of the process automation. It'll be a stepwise fashion, and of course, some people will be on the leading edge of it. Some folks will be very much the slow adopters. So I think there are ways from all of our software. Now, that said, the value of writing code is going down because you can generate so much code faster. In whether it's by a programmer or someone else. So the value isn't in writing the code, it's in the people behind engineering how that code gets built, whether it's an end user, security person, or a developer, whatever it is.
Fred, do you agree with that? AI is essentially a hamburger helper assessment, or what?
I probably have a little bit different take than Mitch on this, in the sense that I mean, today people are using multiple bots every day to write massive amounts of code, do code reviews, a lot of the life cycle. I mean, there are organizations that aren't hiring people anymore. You're not getting junior developers anymore. You don't need to. And the force multiplier for, senior engineers is dramatic, whether it's 10x or 100x. And I think from the standpoint of when do we get to a place where humans aren't in the loop, I would say that we're at least a couple years away from that level of sophistication. But I would say in a lot of cases, and for us specifically, that's 60 to 70% in 2025. Now it's probably 85%, and the rigor behind developing the process and the automation behind it is something that I think is the only way you can use the force multiplier of a handful of engineers doing, 30 engineers worth of work, whether it's, DevOps oriented platform level, or it's, writing core functionality into, security products and product security. So in my book, I would say, and granted, right, startups are always closer to the edge here, but I think there's going to be a tipping point where the level of sophistication for work being done here, minus this Claude bot situation that we see out, present tense of lack of awareness of what the implications are from folks doing that kind of work. Folks that do it as a job and do it for the tool mindedness of what their company is trying to bring to market, everybody has an essence of fiduciary duty to be doing that. So the challenge isn't whether or not engineers see the value in it, it's whether or not folks sitting on the board of directors understand the implications of their business. And I think that's the question that we'll see whether or not it becomes it's not a technical problem.
I agree with you, Fred. For the leading wave, that's what we're seeing. That's not the mainstream yet. And that's the question, when's that tipping point when we're at that mainstream that have adopted to that degree? And you and I are kind of thinking similar around the time frame of that. I think the gentleman, Alan Shimel, was raising his hand, wanted to say something.
No. I was, Mitch, I just wanted to commend you. Nice report, good research there, solid. I do think, now that you asked, I do think that for whatever reason, code developers have been more open to using AI to help them develop code than AI use across other parts of the organization. What I find interesting, though, is, security people are notorious or famous for wanting to try to break things, see how it gets broken, and then rebuild it back so it can't be broken that way. And I think AI is a great tool for that. And so I'm surprised we're not seeing greater AI usage among the security lunch pail crowd, right? Figuring out how to break these things and fix them. Go ahead, Jack.
Yeah, I can sort of relate to a story. So right before we started Techstrong Gang, I was on a call with the CEO of a startup, left a major cybersecurity company with a team of 400 people to create this startup, originally budgeted for a team of 20 to 25 people, 6 months to get first version out, got it done in 6 weeks with 5 developers. Wow. And basically said to his VP of engineering, he says, what were those 400 people doing at the last company we're at, right? It's like, what's going on, right? And he said, basically, the head of engineering said, I spent a week, I developed a very detailed spec of exactly what I want, and I worked with the AIs, Cloud Code and others, and said, go build it. And it wrote 8,000 lines of code that then he went and read and validated it, but he didn't have to write it. He had to validate it, tweak it, make a little change here or there, or have the AI make the little tweak here or there. But again, he said, and I had it create test cases, security test cases, right? And they're developing a security product, so they're very conscious of the security aspect of it, and they are reading all the code, but it is clearly, as Fred said, a force multiplier of a mass magnitude. I think part of what's happening, though, is there is this hesitation to adopt on the part of large corporation engineering departments, because it's the fear of, it's the old productivity versus job replacement, right?
Yes.
Do I view the tool as it's going to increase my productivity, and therefore I can get 10x more done and build an even better product faster, more secure, or do I view it as, oh, this thing's going to replace my job, so I'm never going to use it? And I look at it as I was just going to say, I look at it, it's like, we no longer write an assembly for a reason, right? A higher level language, because we can use a compiler to do stuff, so we don't have to write an assembly or machine language. And in one sense, AIs are exactly the same thing. They allow us to write in human language and make the computer work for us rather than us working for the computer.
My shimmy says yesterday, I wrote about AI generated output, code, prose, music, has sort of a scarlet letter now among people. It's less than soulless, godless, hollow, not as good. And that's changing the same way made in Japan and made in China changed over the years. But why does it have that scarlet letter? You hit it, Jack. It's fear. It's fear. People are afraid. They're afraid someone's going to take their cheese. They're afraid someone's going to take their job. They're afraid someone's going to take their value. And until we cross that Rubicon where, no, it's a tool that's going to make me better, you're going to have that.
Yeah,
But
that's
guys,
happened. Just to throw one more thing at it, I agree. I've said all along that developers are the tip of the spear for the adoption of AI because it's just very natural in the psyche of developers to try new technology. It's not just people that are afraid, it's companies that are afraid.
Yeah.
And it started in development was where we're using AI, but you saw observability companies, you saw monitoring companies, you saw database companies staking claim to things that they don't do, they've never done before. Execution environments for agents, control access and security for AI when they're a data company. And it's because they don't want to be left out. They want to have something in the game. They're not necessarily sure what yet, but we're seeing a lot of that movement started at the end of last year, and it's certainly carrying on into 2026.
Absolutely. Gentlemen, it's that time, though. We need to make our picks for the big game.
Yes.
I'm going to ask you who you want, will they cover, and final score. In terms of covering, what is the line for this game? Anybody know, John?
4.5.
4.5.
I think Seattle's, it's been sticking at 4.5.
Yep. All right, Fred, you probably have the least, I don't think anyone doubts what camp you're in, but what's your pick for the big game?
27-14 Seahawks.
Covering. Way to go. Jack Poller, I don't know. I know it's not your sport, but you want to throw a dollar into the pot?
I'm voting for Budweiser all the way.
Budweiser, okay.
Good ad.
Mike Vizard.
I'm pretty close to Fred. I'm 27-17 Seahawks.
Excellent. Jon Swartz, how about you?
Seahawks in a blowout, 30-7.
Wow. I like that. Bold.
Maybe
Bold,
more.
John. Bold, John.
Darnold's vindication story is he's going to be the MVP.
Fantastic. I love it, John. Mitch, how about you?
As an old Steve Largent fan and someone who will never pick the Patriots, I'm going for the Seahawks 28-14.
I love it too. Hey, I'm a Steelers fan. The last thing I need is the Patriots to have 7 Super Bowls. So for that reason alone, I'm all in. Go Hawks. I also don't think it's going to be close. I think there's a 34-14, 34-17 game. Hawks, and there you have it. So what do we have? We don't have one Niners pick on here, huh?
No Patriots pick.
Patriots.
I mean, Patriots pick, excuse me. I don't even like to say their name.
I think in the last few days, the Patriots, through their owner and through some other things, have created a lot of Seahawks fans for this game, honestly.
There's a lot of haters, too. All right, so, here on the gang, we're all in on the Hawks and Budweiser, right? We've got one write-in vote for Budweiser. Have a great weekend, everyone. Enjoy your Super Bowl. Win, lose, tie, draw, security incident or not, we're going to be here Monday to talk about it. But remember, noon Eastern time on Monday, we start our next adventure in the gang, starting at noon, to give our friends in the West Coast and those of you stayed up late a chance to recuperate before you join in. Have a great weekend.